Damage is the most important part of Dungeons & Dragons. If someone tells you it's telling a story with your friends and reliving the excitement of starting a friendship every time you play, they're wrong. It's about finding the biggest number you can make with the math rocks. So what is the biggest hit possible in Dungeons & Dragons? Today, I'm putting my character building expertise to the test and making the biggest number I can. I put a lot of effort into this, so the least you can do is throw your old character sheets in the garbage when this video is done. This is your character now. You don't need the other sheets anymore. But if you want some other sheets, you can also join my Patreon. I've got a bunch of them over there. Follow me on Twitch if you like seeing my face, and subscribe for more gaming goodness. First things first, let's make some ground rules. Number one, it's gotta be raw and wriggling. That means rules as written, not rules as intended. If they intended something else, they should have written that. Next, no magic items. I'm not your DM. If I was your DM, I'd use nothing but giant wasps. They have the highest damage per round unless they're fighting monks, which you wouldn't be allowed to play in my game if suboptimal. Finally, we'll make no assumptions of the roles or assistance from party members. If I say we crit, the crit is guaranteed. We obviously can't count on other party members. They're also only allowed to use this build. Everything else would be too weak. For stats, standard point array. I would say roll because it's statistically better, but then I can't control it. Basically, you need a minimum of 15 charisma and 13 in wisdom and strength. Everything else is optional, might as well put it in constitution. Not that it'll matter, you're gonna kill everything before it has the opportunity to attack you. Actually, not really, your dexterity is pretty low. You're gonna take one hit. I know a lot of people dislike custom lineage because they think it's not creative, despite being literally anything you can think of, but that's not why I like it. I like it because it's optimal. You can raise your charisma by 2 points, then take the Tavern Brawler feat. It gives you +1 to your strength or constitution, and proficiency with improvised weapons. It also makes your unarmed attacks deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage. Oh god, that's the suboptimal police. They arrest people who make suboptimal characters and also account for 80% of the suboptimal city budget, while the schools remain funded. I better optimize this character, and fast. Never a bad plan to sell your soul. I sold mine to Nickelback last week. We're going Hexblade specifically, letting you use Hexblade's curse to pick a creature and add your proficiency bonus to damage against them, +6 by the end of things. Rad. You can also pick a weapon to be a hex weapon. That'll use your charisma modifier for attack and damage rolls. Radder. Well, I mean, it will be radder later. Second level of Warlock also doesn't matter. Kind of. You get invocations, but you can't get the one you need until 3rd level, when you get a packed weapon. It's a magical melee weapon of your choosing, but if you use the improved packed weapon invocation, it can also be a heavy crossbow. That can also be your hex weapon, because hex weapons can be any packed weapon you have. 3rd level Warlock is also where we can guarantee our critical hits with the spell Hold Person, which paralyzes a humanoid that fails a wisdom saving throw. Attacks against paralyzed creatures made within 5 feet of them are automatically critical hits. It only works on humanoids, so hopefully you're killing people. In Dungeons & Dragons. In real life. 4th level, and it's time for a feat. Sharpshooter lets you take a -5 penalty to your attack rolls with a ranged weapon you're proficient with and add 10 to the damage roll. Now, we're starting to cook. 5th level Warlocks get another invocation. Thirsting Blade is like an eye doctor for sandwiches. That's right, a sub-optometrist. So, we'll be going for Eldritch Smite instead, letting you spend a Warlock slot to add a d8 of extra force damage to an attack with your packed weapon once per round, plus a d8 of force damage per spell level. Eventually, it's going to be 6d8 when we have 5th level Warlock slots, which will be 12d8 on a critical hit, free from Hold Person. For another Smite, grab the Booming Blade spell, which lets you make a melee weapon attack that deals an extra d8 of thunder damage, which will double to 2d8 on a critical hit, and doesn't use a spell slot. We don't get any more damage until the 8th level of Warlock for another ability score improvement or feat, but first, we need to take a detour. Might seem condescending, but I'm an optimizer. Maybe it wouldn't feel so condescending if you were more knowledgeable. So, attacks in Dungeons & Dragons are made up of several categories, with 2 big ones, weapon and spell. A weapon attack is any attack that isn't a spell attack. That's a punch, an arrow, a slash, or even a pillow. These are the attacks we're focusing on, so let's go to the subcategories of weapon attacks. First, we have ranged weapon attacks and melee weapon attacks. A melee weapon attack is any attack you make within your reach, including unarmed attacks, swords, hammers, and the like, and smashing someone with a pillow. A ranged attack is any attack made out of your reach with a range, including thrown weapons, arrows, bolts, and a thrown pillow. So, now we reach the part that is very raw, because there are also attacks with a melee weapon and attacks with a ranged weapon, which are different than melee weapon attacks and ranged weapon attacks. Why? And when? And what? And how? And mostly, why? If you throw a dagger, which is a melee weapon, you're making a ranged weapon attack, but the dagger does not become a ranged weapon. Because of this, you can't use Sharpshooter with the thrown weapon. The Sharpshooter bonus is for attacks with ranged weapons, not ranged weapon attacks. If you make an unarmed attack against a creature, it's a melee weapon attack, but you're not using a melee weapon. So for something like Divine Smite, which adds damage to an attack with a melee weapon, you cannot smite. That'd be silly. However, improvised weapons can make Divine Smites because you're using a weapon, even if it's a pillow. So a paladin channeling the power of righteousness into their fists for a holy punch? Ridiculous. A paladin carrying a body pillow of their waifu god and using it to smite people with the power of god and anime? Totally legit and also very cool. Or it would be if it was optimal. Back to the build. 8th level of Warlock, we're going to take the Great Weapon Master feat. This lets you take a -5 penalty to your attack roll to add 10 to the damage roll when you make a melee attack with a heavy weapon you're proficient with. A heavy crossbow is a heavy weapon you're proficient with. You can make an improvised weapon attack with a heavy crossbow, it'll deal a d4 of bludgeoning damage. But since it's simultaneously an attack with a ranged weapon you're proficient with, and a melee weapon attack with a heavy weapon you're proficient with, it meets the requirements for both Sharpshooter and Great Weapon Master. Smiting with an unarmed strike is not allowed in the rules. This is 9th level Warlocks can learn Hold Monster. It's like Hold Person without the humanoid restriction, so now everything's a critical hit. More damage at the 12th level of Warlock, grabbing the Life Drinker Invocation to add your Charisma modifier and necrotic damage to your attacks with a packed weapon, and you can bump your Charisma up for +2 more damage. It's not a lot, but every little bit counts. Meticulous calculation comes down to every tiny little number, and ignoring little numbers will get you arrested. But for more damage, we need to start multi-classing. Oh no! Oh god! Oh no! Okay. If you want to be strong enough to kill God first, you need to ask them for some help. First, we'll go for 2 levels of Paladin and unlock Divine Smite. That lets you spend a spell slot to add 2d8 radiant damage to a weapon attack, and a higher level spell slot to a maximum of 5d8. It doesn't have to be a Paladin spell slot, so use 1 Warlock slot on an Eldritch Smite and 1 Warlock slot on a Paladin Smite. You've got smites on smites. And the 3rd slot is for Hold Monster, to double the damage of both. To double that damage again, jump to Grave Cleric for 2 levels and use their Channel of Divinity, Path to the Grave. That lets you curse a creature to have vulnerability to all damage of the next attack that hits them. Is it for one type of damage? No. So if you're dealing magical bludgeoning, force, thunder, and radiant damage, it's vulnerable to all of those and will take double damage. Does it matter if they normally resist the damage? Nope. Does it matter if they're normally immune to the damage? No. You can hit an angel with radiant damage and it will still be doubled. Quick note, we cannot use the Great Weapon fighting style from Paladin because that's for attacks with a melee weapon you're wielding two-handed. Heavy crossbow is not a melee weapon. It's a heavy weapon, but not melee, so we can't re-roll the 1s and 2s on the damage die. Obviously what we need is archery. Bouncing over to Fighter. That'll let you grab the Archery fighting style, which adds 2 to your attack rolls with ranged weapons. The heavy crossbow is always a ranged weapon, even when you use it to slam someone. 2nd level, you get Action Surge, letting you make 2 actions in 1 turn once per short rest. Use it to apply your debuffs faster. 3rd level fighters can choose a martial archetype, and I wouldn't be an optimizer if I didn't pick the only one that matters, Battlemaster. No other martial archetypes are good for anything. You can only pick Battlemaster, and I will find you and spank your bare bottom if you choose anything else. Unless you'd like that, then I won't. You get superiority die you can add to the damage of attacks with special maneuvers. They don't matter, just pick one that deals damage, and only use that. Otherwise, you're bad. Then at the 4th level fighter, you get an ability score improvement to cap off your charisma and get the maximum bonuses from Hex Warrior and Life Drinker. Now, let's get to the good part, doing math. First, the modifiers, +5 from your charisma, +5 from your charisma again with Life Drinker, +6 from your proficiency bonus with Hexblade's Curse, +1 from the improved packed weapon, +10 from Great Weapon Master, and another +10 from Sharpshooter. That's a 37 damage modifier. Now, dice, 1d4 from the heavy crossbow, 3d8 from Booming Blade, 1d8 from a maneuver, 6d8 from Eldritch Smite, and 5d8 from the Divine Smite. Double those with a free critical hit from Hold Monster, that's 2d4 plus 30d8 plus 37, meaning with max rolls, 285 damage. Double all of that from the vulnerability of Path to the Grave, you've got a max damage roll of 570 damage. We did it, gamers. We achieved optimization perfection. This is the only character you should ever play. And I don't know what to do now. Sub-optimization police left. I don't have any games to play in. I just have knowledge. Actually, it could be a little better if you had a team supporting you. I know I said we weren't doing this, but I do love to tell other people how to play their characters. That's why I started optimizing in the first place. And also why I do not have a game to play in. First, we need someone to buff our attack rolls. I think like a War Domain Cleric Bard multi-class would be best. War God's Blessing would let you add 10 to your attack roll, and then they could give you Inspiration die to stack on top. They could even be a Valor Bard, and then you could add the Inspiration die to your damage. Such a cool character idea too, like this Skald who loves the thrill of battle so much, they devote themselves to a War God. Love to play that character. I mean, no, I wouldn't. I'm dealing damage. Optimization. We need someone to give the creature disadvantage on wisdom saves to make sure that Hold Monster works. I'm thinking a Druid Monk multi-class. else. That way they have enough speed to get in and touch the creature with a contagion spell. Oh, they could even be Circle of the Land to pair haste with the monk speed. Picture in this really slimy bastard scooting around on acid, probably a dragon monk then with the acid punches. That sounds super fun for someone else. And for another someone else, a barbarian to soak up the damage and distract the enemy while we get our attacks off. Mix it with rogue for expertise in athletics and make sure that nothing will escape their grapples. It's like a thief who had to be tough on the streets and developed a bit of an anger problem. It's such a weird pairing, but I bet it could be sweet. Conclusion. Dear God, please realize this is a joke. How could these sound like fun ideas if they don't deal as much damage as my build? Could it be that Dungeons and Dragons shouldn't just be an exercise in making the biggest number possible? Could any number of characters work together to create interesting situations and cool combos that excite everyone at the table? Optimization can be really fun, and if you want to make your character to specifically deal the most damage, you go for it. Just don't tell other people what to do with their character, because they probably don't care. They just had a fun idea and wanted to roleplay with their friends. You can join in on that without being an obnoxious jerk. Ruins the fun for everyone else. Also, you're never dealing that damage. You would have to roll max roll on 32 die. If someone rolled all of those dice every second of every day, the heat death of the universe would come faster. But it is technically possible, and it looks good in the thumbnail. Oh no, that's the clickbait police. They're also overfunded. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe for more. We're making new videos all the time. Join my Twitch if you want to watch me stream, and sub to Tulok and Mango for more Tulok fun.